He came back from Nashville where he was at the Alabama-Vanderbilt game. The best game in college football this year. Maybe for a long time. That would have been a great game like that forever. Sensational game. But we're going to talk high school football most of the night. We have Milvon James from Inglewood High School. They had a huge victory over Lusinger. But let's bring in the guy who was in Nashville, Tarek Fatal. 40-35, the Crimson Tide, formerly #1 in the country, fall in Nashville to the Commodores.
VU. VU. Anchor down, anchor down. We were doing, my buddies and I, we do a trip every year. Last year it was Monday Night Football in Vegas for a day, Packers, Raiders. This year, friends and family live in Nashville. We thought, hey, let's go out, visit friends and family, and catch an SEC football game. October 5th, awesome. We'll get to see Bama in person. It just so happened they turned to be the #1 team in the country by the time we booked everything. And then to see Vanderbilt win wire to wire was bedlam. It's literally the word to describe what happened that night.
Great football game, and congratulations to the Commodores. All right, let's jump back into our arena, high school football. Let's start with Servite and J. Sarah. Servite is not quite #1. That's Mater Dei's post. Servite is not #1 in the state, but they're #6 now after knocking off a very good football team in J. Sarah. But let's start with this game, St. John Bosco and Orange Lutheran. Bosco's another one of those teams that's highly regarded. This was not an easy game. Olu's played the toughest schedule in the state, maybe in the country, and really had Bosco on the ropes.
St. John Bosco's a relatively young team, obviously underclassmen, a junior at quarterback that was out, and so they had a freshman quarterback play that game, and a lot of sophomores and juniors that really haven't had a lot of Trinity League experience because they've been behind seniors. So that game was, they're a very vulnerable team in the Trinity League, and I think Orange Lutheran tried to take advantage of that, but St. John Bosco just had that edge of quality that got them the victory.
Bosco had the freshman quarterback, Koa Ma'aulu, who threw 20 of 22 completions. I got his number here, over 300 yards for the Braves.
Fantastic.
In the second half. Great performance by a 15-year-old. All right, let's go back to that Servite game, which was huge to me. We had the Servite coaching on last week, their staff and their great player, Quaid Carr. Now they come through with a huge win over J. Sarah, and you can see that Quaid had a big game. This is a surprise. The Friars were supposed to be good, but I don't think a lot of people thought they'd be 6-0 and this good.
Sure, no, I think to call it a stunner is a fair word to use. Surprise, a shocker. I don't know about upset because we don't gamble on high school games, but yes, really, really surprising score. And I have to mention Chris Reinert, a Vanderbilt alum, the head coach at Servite. So what a weekend for him, an all-time Friday and Saturday.
Welcome back to Vanderbilt football. We're going to talk it's Commodore talk for the next 30 minutes. All right, speaking of coming on, how about Sarah of Gardena? This is a football team, lost a couple games early, but they're really building momentum. They were down to Loyola, but huge. 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They scored 4 times and knocked off the Cubs.
Yeah, you know, Sarah Gardena should be, you know, the Week 10 game is Sarah versus Sierra Canyon. Everyone's assuming that's going to be for the Mission League title. The problem is Sarah is a more vulnerable team. They roll out there with like 40, 41 guys. You know, that's high-level Mission League football. They are susceptible to a loss. Where Sierra Canyon carries like 60, 65, I don't think they're going to be as susceptible to stumbling through the Mission League. So curious to see if both teams will be unbeaten by Week 10.
I do love the quarterback there at Sarah, Jimmy Butler, same name as the Miami Heat basketball player. But this Butler's thrown for 1,500 yards, rushed for over 200, scores a lot of touchdowns. Dual-purpose guy, really gets it done for the Cavaliers. Next game is Mission Viejo, and they have been phenomenal.
Yes.
They dominate Long Beach Poly. This is a team that is right now as good as anybody in the area.
Yeah, no question. I mean, you're talking about what is probably the #3, maybe #4 team in the state. Mater Dei Bosco. Folsom's really good up north. Bam, there's Mission Viejo. Maybe they're even 3 above Folsom in some polls. But, man, 2-quarterback system. Weapons all over the place on offense. Phillip Bell, Vance Spafford, the whole 9 yards. And then, of course, they have Jaden Williams, who leads the country in sacks on defense. And then Dijon Lee is going to Alabama. I mean, the list just goes on of standout players.
I did look up Vance Spafford's numbers. He's caught already 13 touchdown passes this season for Mission Viejo. Next up, Mater Dei. This one was not a surprise. Santa Margarita is a good high school football team, but Mater Dei is the best team.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the defense. That's what's so hard for people to understand is the defense for Mater Dei really, I mean, Santa Margarita scored 18 points. I'm not so sure what the breakdown was. Maybe a touchdown came in the fourth quarter or something like that, but this Monarchs defense is dominant, and the offense really doesn't have to do much. There's not a lot of pressure to go back and forth with anybody. So I think the defense allows them to play freely, and that's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah, Jordan Davidson, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's got 6 on the year. Terrific running back for the Monarchs, a senior who's very, very solid. All right, let's talk about Inglewood and Lusinger, and then we'll meet Milvon James, the head football coach at Inglewood. This is another tough game. You had Lusinger in your top 10 last week. Now you have Inglewood in there taking their spot. But this was a great game in the Bay League. As you can see, the former Birmingham quarterback, Kingston Tisdale, with a great game.
Yeah, Inglewood's always a team, always kind of in the top 25, maybe around like 20, 25, maybe 18 to 25. And then just through victories and taking down teams above them, they work their way up. Always, always a solidified program in Southern California, and I know Milvon James does a good job. Looking forward to talking to them.
Oh, we're going to talk to him right now. Coach Milvon James, been there 4 years. He's done a terrific job building the Inglewood program. I remember him when he was in the city at Hawkins, had that football program close to a city championship. They got to the finals one year and lost to LA High School. Coach, welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I know you don't do a lot of interviews, and we are really thankful that you've come aboard. Tell us a little bit about the Lusinger game. What got you to the finish line? How'd you win that football game? And it went back and forth. We know that.
It really just boiled down to our kids just being resilient. It was a hard-fought game. Lusinger is a well-coached program, doing a tremendous job over there. But our kids just stayed true to what we believe in here at Inglewood. Just playing through all the whistles and being disciplined and finding a way to gut a tough win out. And Lusinger tested us. It's turned into one of the nicest rivalries. I mean, not nice, but one of the best rivalries within Southern California. And each and every year, it's proven to be so. That game really tested us as coaches, and it tested our players. And I was happy they were able to pull it out.
Coach, really appreciate you coming on. You seem to have a very monotone personality. Is that the way you coach? Do you get a little more fired up on Friday nights? I'm glad you chuckled at that, because with these high school kids, you got to find ways to fire them up, right? And so I'm curious, how do you do that every Friday night?
No, honestly, this is my personality. It's no bells and whistles. It's just teaching. We do. I take a great pride in the fact that I'm able to take a young man and teach them how to play the game of football and help them, reach their goals. So I'm not a rah-rah guy. Never was that as a player. Not one as a coach. Like I said, it's about teaching, and I think that my staff, we do a really good job here of teaching our players how to be better young men and football players as well.
Coach, I think you don't like to do interviews because you think it's about the kids. You don't want to have all the emphasis on who you are. You love your kids and you want to get that across, correct?
Always. That's one thing that I preach here is that it's not about me. My playing days ended years ago, as well as all my other coaches. It's about our players. Our goal is always to make sure our kids reach their goals, high school goals and life goals. So championships will come as long as I keep coaching. Eventually, I'll get one, but I'll win each and every year when I send a kid to college and help that family change the trajectory of their family. So that's what I'm here for. That's our mission always.
I know you're unbeaten so far this year. When you're talking to your team every week, I know it's generally one game at a time, but what are the goals this year? Do you guys talk CIF championship? Is that getting too far ahead of things? Is it one game at a time? How do you approach your goals, and what are they, Coach?
Every coach has those cliche moments. We're like, we're 16-0 or 10-0, 11-0, but I really try to keep everything to day by day. Win the day, win the week, and that's just the way we look at things. Our goals are always get better. Like I said, hey, it's not the most exciting thing, but get better each and every day. Every time we step on the football field, let's get better. Like I told them last week, that was week 6. We moved on to week 7 the very next day. That's our mindset. That's our approach. And that's how we're going to push forward as a program.
What's the identity of Inglewood football, Coach? For those that have never seen Inglewood play, certainly are familiar with the famous city here in Los Angeles, what's the identity of the Sentinels?
We try our best to be representative of the nickname of our city, the City of Champions. we teach our kids to be the best in each and every facet of their lives. So we attack practice as being the best, the classroom as being the best. So our identity is just we're very versatile. We can adapt. We're very athletic, and we're tough as nails. And one of the things that we like to pride ourselves on, our kids are very well coached and they're very disciplined. Yeah. So I mean, last game may not have showed that, but we preach discipline within our program.
You know, I looked at Cal Preps, and you're supposed to win the game at Lawndale tomorrow night, 62-3. I know you scoff at that, but how do you tell your kids, don't look at Cal Preps, because they're going to look and they're going to know what the prediction is? How do you get that out of their head to just say, hey, it's another opponent and we got to play well?
That's tell the truth. Cal Preps, I don't know how it works, and Cal Preps have had us losing some games this year, and that wasn't true. So if we look at projections, then we'll never know. We have to play the game. You were talking about the Vandy Alabama game. You have to play the game because everyone had in the country had Bama win that game, and look what happened. So we can never take any opponent lightly or scoff at anyone. So we approach every game with the best intent of giving our best, and so.
Coach, the last one for me, just some names. I mean, highlight who some of the best players are for you this year, whether it be off. I know you got some studs on defense. I know you've got Tisdale. We've mentioned him, has been throwing the rock a little bit. Just your opportunity to give players some shine.
Like I said, I love all my players. The guys have been, who's been playing tremendous this year. Raymond Gilbert is a receiver who's playing great as a senior. Andre Nickerson, a junior tight end, who I think could be one of the best. Jacob Whitehead could be definitely one of the best corners in the nation, and as well as Jalen Hill is one of the best DBs. Kassan Johnson has proven to be a super versatile defensive back, and I think my defensive front with Lucian Holland, Sorrell Howard, Miles Smith, and Elijah Harmon and Cleavon Mouton has really pushed the envelope for our defense. And then our captain has been like Wolfgram. He's our bell cow. He gets everything done for us, and I love the type of football he's playing right now.
Coach, I know when you took over the program, what were you, like Division 13? You played last year in D3 in the playoffs, lost a tough game to Chaminade. How proud are you that you were able to move the program up that many steps?
It's just a testament to our hard work. When I got here, this program was coming off an 0-10 season, and I think it was 1-9 the year before that. We're Division 13. My first year, we went to Division 13 semifinals. And we've lost in the semifinals or the championship every year I've been here. We've been in D2 championship. We've been in D3 playoffs. And I'm really just proud of the way our program, our admin, and how everyone in our city has, and how they've embraced us as a family. And each and every day I watch our get incrementally better. Like I said, we're inner city school. We don't have the best of resources, but you can never tell that from the way our kids and our parents and our families approach each and every game. So we try to give our kids a $1 billion experience, even though we're not quite there yet. But I'm proud of the work we're doing here, and I'm gonna continue to push forward.
Coach, congratulations on the great start. Best of luck the rest of the way in league and certainly into the playoffs. And I would say to you, continue to do interviews. You're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
All right, you take care, and we'll talk to you down the road. Well, they may not be Vanderbilt, but Inglewood's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that Wolfgram, the Volante Wolfgram is the linebacker that I was talking about. I know he's just like a warrior out there, and I believe he's only a junior. So Inglewood is in good hands, and I know that they will be a tough out in what I think will probably be Division II football. They might even get high enough to get a home game in that first round. Even if they're not, doesn't matter. We both know that the Division II field is probably the most competitive high school football field in regard to anyone can beat anybody in the southern section.
And they'll be competitive for sure. There's no question about that. Time for Tarek's SB Live, top 10 in the southern section. Seems like every week we start out with the same big names on top. It's got to obviously start with Mater Dei. The Monarchs are your #1 team.
Yeah, again, going back to their defense, it's just so remarkable how dominant they are. And it's just hard to beat. Yeah, you cannot take down this Monarchs. You can hardly score on them. And so that sets a tone for a football team when the other team just knows, man, it's going to be tough to score. So as you alluded to earlier, 10 at Inglewood at 10. Jay Sarah moves up a little bit at 9. Moves down a little bit after their loss, but Servite rises up to #5. So more movement to come because all these teams are going to play each other.
You know, we're not talking a lot about Corona Centennial, and they're just sitting there, lost a couple games earlier in the year. They have Hussein Longstreet back. Hussein has thrown 10 touchdown passes in 5 games. He's healthy again. And again, no discussion of Matt Logan's team.
Yeah, I think that's because their league isn't that, I mean, they have Marietta Valley, they've got Chaparral. Those teams are pretty good, but we're going to have to see how they match up against those teams. Again, if I'm being honest, the first 2 losses of the year for Centennial kind of made them an afterthought. And they've, to your point, they've kind of stayed there the last 3-4 weeks now, despite winning, I believe, 4 or 5 games in a row. And so no one's talking about them. And I bet you right now the Huskies like that. You know what I mean?
I think they do.
You like that, you know, if you're a coach. You don't want anyone talking about you. So they're right where they need to be. They're destined to be a Division I football team. So what else does anyone need to talk to you about? They're clearly playing better. However, my last ad would be they're not exactly playing juggernauts every week. So that's why there's not a lot of hoopla about
But we saw them matched up against Mater Dei, and they got beat. But it wasn't like it was a giant discrepancy.
It was a good game.
And they got Longstreet back, and he didn't play in that game. So I'm just saying they're under the radar, and I think you're right. They're going in a position they really like.
It's why their loss to Santa Margarita was so odd, because they played so well against Mater Dei. But here they are. They're on a winning streak. They're figuring it out.
LA City section football. A couple scores I want to talk about. First, Birmingham over Chatsworth, 64-0. You're saying, Randy, why do you want Birmingham up there against Chatsworth? Well, you see it on the bottom line there. 43rd straight victory against city competition. That's an all-time record, breaking Wilson's streak from the 70s, which was 42 when they had Ron Kusha. By the way, Ron Kusha in his 3 years as a mule was 39-0 as the quarterback. 43 straight games. That's a victory I know that Jim Rose wanted, and he's very proud, the coach of Birmingham, of that accomplishment.
I don't see that record being in jeopardy until the playoffs. I just don't see them losing a West Valley game. It's not going to be to El Camino Real. I don't think it'll be to Taft. I don't think it'll be to Cleveland, so on and so forth. And if it is, then that'll be for a great story. But the first time that record will be tested will be in the Open Division playoffs.
I would agree with that, but they do get El Camino this week. And El Camino over Taft in a game that was on LA 36, a game that took nearly 3 hours, but it was entertaining in spots. There was a lot of huge plays. Arturo Acevedo, 5 touchdown passes, 4 of them going to Jaden Williams, number 16.
Nice ball there. And I think last week, you know, you said ECR was going to win, and I said, you know what, Randy, I believe you. And so we look good now because it looks like they won pretty decisively, and that's a good call on you. I know they've had a rough opening handful of weeks, half dozen weeks to the season. I believe their only win was to Dimely before this game, if I'm not mistaken. So, hey, man, when you're coaching up a bunch of teenagers and they're not winning, it's hard to get the wheels turning. But a victory in league will always right the ship. Good for the Royals.
And that's their 8th straight win against Taft, which is their rivalry. 2 in a row. They're up to 2-4. Birmingham this week may be a little bit over their skis. All right, another game, and this one is very interesting. You're going to see the score. Okay. Narbonne 2, Banning
this is a good
nothing.
story.
Coaches boycott the game. Narbonne's tomorrow night supposed to play San Pedro. That's probably not going to happen.
For sure not happening.
Yeah,
confirmed.
Well, until tomorrow, I don't trust any of this. But there's a boycott. So what's going on there in your mind?
Well, I can tell you with certainty. The athletic director at San Pedro told me they're not playing the game. That's confirmed. But look, the Marine League coaches, Carson, Banning, San Pedro, and Gardena, have elected to join forces, basically, and agree to not participate against games versus Narbonne out of allegations and suspicion that they're illegally recruiting. I find that, I got a lot of opinions on that, actually,
well,
but that's what's happening.
I'm going to ask you a strong question right now.
Yeah.
Is that fair to the kids who came out to play football at all these Marine League schools that want to play? And I get if there's some shenanigans going on at Narbonne, it may not be right, but if you're playing for San Pedro, Gardena, all the schools you talked about, Banning, is it fair to the kids?
Not at all, and that's that challenge I have. What moral high ground do these teams, the goal to stand up and eliminate games and opportunities and fun at the end of the day in education-based athletics from your own players? And then how about the Narbonne kids that are basically out 5 games now and hunting and hoping that someone falls out of the sky and plays them in the last 4 weeks of the season. So I find it just so unbecoming of those schools to do that. Really, really poor, in my opinion.
What is very odd is Narbonne is the #1 team in the city. You'll see the poll in a moment. They could get a pure bye all the way to the city playoffs and be the #1 seed in the open division. The other factor here, with all these forfeits, these other schools, their record is going to get diminished. And if their record is bad and they're not in the open division, they can't go to any playoffs. They can't be dropped into a Division I in the city's case, because they have an open, then D1. They won't let them do that. The city section won't let them do that. So they're going to be married to not playing if they don't play their league games, which is very odd.
Yeah, it is really odd, and obviously they're going to play each other, so it will end up shaking out. From what I've been told from the section, Randy, is forfeits actually don't impact your rating, which is what they use to create the playoffs. So that's probably what they were thinking. As long as these forfeits don't impact our rating and we're still going to the open division, they feel like they're doing the right thing. But to your initial point, but what about the kids?
Yeah, but it could impact their rating, because they're going to beat each other up.
Correct.
And then
That's
you throw
true.
in the forfeit, and then if they're down to Division I, they're out entirely.
So yeah, if you don't play Narbonne and you happen to lose to everybody else, then yeah, it'll mess with you. But just the forfeit alone doesn't impact too much.
Here's the other odd thing. For a while there, San Pedro was going to boycott in flag football against Narbonne. Now they've settled it, and they're going to play tomorrow afternoon at 3. But it's not even talking the boys' football, the tackle. It even filtered down into the flag.
Yeah, and I'm glad that game got played. That's like what I would call collateral damage. You know, why even cancel that game? And so not only is the varsity level tackle game canceled, but the JV game is as well. But the girls' flag football will be played. Very, very odd. I'll probably pump out a column here in the next week or so when I talk to these coaches, because the goal for these guys to go and do that. And last ad, no, this is a good topic to talk about. How about confirming that they're not going to play at like the 11th hour? Officials, logistics, buses, you know, not giving the Narbonne an opportunity to maybe like find an opponent. It's just really, really sour and really, really unsportsmanlike, in my opinion. I find it really, really odd.
Yeah, the good news is that, like you said, the flag football is going to be played. Here is the city section, SB Live. It really is not SB Lives. This is SB Lives, isn't it?
No, it is. Yeah.
Okay,
if
so
Narbonne's one, it's us. Yeah.
Okay, it's Narbonne is one, it is you. Okay, I thought it was going to be Cal Preps, but it is SB Live. Narbonne, all those teams that we just talked about.
This is Cal Preps. You're right. This is Cal Preps, because Dorsey's in there, and they wouldn't touch my top 10 with a 90-foot pole.
Yeah, the reason I put Cal Preps in there, and I'll tell you why.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Is because of what happened with these schools up on top and how it could be affected. And this is the legitimate poll that we're looking at right now. If the season ended, 1 through 8 would be in the open division, and both of us agree Dorsey shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, Dorsey wouldn't be in there. But again, I think most of the Marine League probably should be in there. And so that's where this is going to get interesting. How much of a human element might take place from the section when it comes to the postseason, given the drama that's happening in the Marine League? And I find it, look, the initial announcement for banning to forfeit, I think that was one. But now that San Pedro is basically holding pact to the agreement, I think now the subsequent schools will do it too. It's almost like you don't want to cross the picket line when you're boycotting. So I think it's gonna hold up.
All right, let's quickly take a look at the key performances from last week. We had some great ones, starting with Chi, who went nuts. Look at this, 383 yards and a victory over Canyon Anaheim for the running back. Then you had Carson Cox, who's been on the show, 4 touchdowns over Hesperi. He's a great player for Oak Hills, which is still undefeated. Carson's got 20 touchdowns. Omar Mohammed, another one of our guests from North Hollywood, a huge game in the rivalry over Grant with 4 scores. Other games, Cesar Reyes from a very good Garfield team, a big game, 260 yards over Southeast with 4 touchdowns. Grady Lung from Lucerna, that's a great game, 429 yards in the air and 4 scores. And how about on the bottom there? What a defensive performance by Ulave Fetuli of La Habra. 2 sacks, a pick, caught a touchdown on offense in the win over El Dorado.
Yeah, all great standout performances, you know, player of the weeks, so to speak, in their own respective areas. Another good week of football.
Key games, we got some doozies this week. Let's start with Servite And Modern Day, they expect 11,000 at this one.
Yeah, Mount Sac. That game's going to get played in the San Gabriel Valley, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I just have a hard time believing Modern Day is going to get dethroned. But we saw Servite stun Jay Serra, so why not?
How about Olu and Jay Serra? Speaking of Jay Serra, looking to bounce back against an Olu team that's played that rigorous schedule.
That game, I mean, in my opinion, that was right after Bosco Mater Dei, bam, it's Olu and Jay Serra. And so that game means a lot, in my opinion, when it comes to like potential third place team, which is looking like Servite right now after beating Jay Serra, but they got to win some more games as well. That might be the second best game in the Trinity League after Bosco Mater Dei.
St. John Bosco should be favored in this one over Santa Margarita. But again, we mentioned it, Santa Margarita earlier this year stunned Corona Centennial.
Well, you know, they're without their leader now. So Anthony Rouzier, the head coach, was put on leave, and now you've got Coach Fafita taking over as interim. Santa Margarita is going through some challenges right now, and Trent Mosley's hurt, their star wide receiver and the defending offensive league MVP of the Trinity League.
A game that'll be on TV right here tomorrow night on LA 36. Long Beach Poly, not with a great record, but they've played a rigorous schedule against Milliken, who has Anthony League, who's in a league of his own.
Yes.
He's rushed for 17 touchdowns this year. Poly Milliken,
Look at that
game of the
graphic.
week. Yeah, I like the graphic.
Wow.
That's big time.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Rich Estrella, Bob Gibson, two of the best on the call, 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yeah, really, really fun game. This should be, that'll decide the Moore League title. And hey, you know, Long Beach Poly's on, you know, they're not having a great year. So do not be surprised if Milliken stuns the Jackrabbits. In fact, I will say, give me Milliken.
Milliken, okay. I'll stick with Poly. Crenshaw and Dorsey, always a rivalry game in the Coliseum League.
Coliseum League.
Identical records. Dorsey should win this time.
Okay, yeah, I do think Dorsey will win the game. The Dons, my guy Stephon Johnson, who does Saturdays for KCal, and Jim Hill. So, yeah, rooting for my guy.
Good plug. Banning and Gardena, no forfeit here.
Yeah.
Terrific game. This is going to tell us how good Gardena is.
Give me Banning in this game. I do think Gardena, that 6-0 is a little bit swirly just on who they've played. Give me Banning, who's played some Southern Section, who's taken their lumps to some Southern Section opponents, which generally ends up being a benefit to a program.
Give me Gardena. They're going to stay on.
Whoa!
I can't agree with Tarek.
Whoa!
No, I like Gardena. I think they're better than a lot of people think.
Okay.
Final game that we'll talk about. This one's a great one in the Western League in the city section. How about Westchester and Palisades? I know Westchester is very confident. They had a nice win over Cleveland recently. They think they're going to get Pally.
Yeah, give me Palisades. I think I've been saying the last couple of weeks, the Dolphins for me are kind of like the sleeper of the Open Division. I don't know how deep they'll go, but they will get to the Open Division. I do think they'll win the Western League. They've got good balance. And they've played some really good opponents of their ilk of talent, so to speak, in the Southern Section. I don't think Westchester has played a Southern Section team, so again, that weighs a lot when it comes to City Section football.
A note on City Section volleyball, Taft over El Camino Real 3-2. Taft's one of the best teams in the city. As we go down toward the playoffs, they're undefeated in the West Valley. Venice knocked off Palisades, which is a great win for them. Pally's been the dominant team. So it looks like Taft and Venice are the dominant squads.
Yeah, hey, you know, there's some really good volleyball in the City Section. I always like, I don't know if it's there again. I'm sure it is, but Cal State Northridge usually plays hosts to those championships.
And this is girls volleyball.
Yeah, girls volleyball. We're here in the fall, and totally love it. And I hope to see those two teams at the Matadome. And yes, I still call it the Matadome.
It is the Matadome. It's always Hoops. Hoops has played in the Matadome when Cal State Northridge is there. How about Lino Mark? He's a point guard for Notre Dame Sherman Oaks. He is committed to Rutgers.
Yeah, yeah. Rutgers, I don't know if you know, but they've got two of the best recruits in the country as freshmen. They've got Ace Bailey, number 2 recruit in the country, and Dylan Harper, number 3 recruit in the country. So when it comes to NIL, Rutgers knows what they're doing, and that's why they're getting these big-time recruits. So Lino Mark, not exactly of that status, but he will definitely help them down the line.
Nick Hemeni is a great player at Harvard Westlake. He's about 6'8", 6'9". He's growing every year.
Yep.
Everybody wants him. He's supposed to commit soon. When?
Yeah, you know, I think it'll be within the next couple weeks. They got some USA basketball stuff going on, but you're talking about a 6'8", 6'9", fundamental player that can shoot the ball. Every college coach likes that. He's tough. There's a lot of great things to like about Nick Kamenia, and wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being a Bruin.
That's it. Show's over. I can't believe you don't think Gardina's going to win this week.
I'm just excited for basketball season. I'm ready, man. I've already sent out basketball questionnaires. Coaches are responding. I know who's looking good, who's not. It's gonna be a fun year. I'm excited.
It was a fun show. Thank you, Milvon James of Inglewood.
Yes.
I don't have to wish you good luck. You'll have a pretty good outing tomorrow night, I would imagine, against Lawndale. Tarek, we'll see you next week.
Really looking forward to it. Thanks, Randy.
For Tarek Patel and our entire LA36 crew, Tarek's about ready to throw his papers out. He always does that every show, and so you'll see it on our last shot. You'll see some flying papers. We'll talk to you next week right here on SoCal Prep Report. Good night, everybody.
Camera two.
Camera two, take it. There it goes. You got a pretty good arm.
That was actually pretty good. That's
you should have played for Vanderbilt.
That's my best one.
Quarterback?
They were. Hey, man.
You sat with the family, the quarterback,
those,
Vandy?
That family knows how to drink.